On this week's episode of Motivational Minutes, former PepsiCo executive and author Mitzi Short explains why it's important for people in the workplace to speak up when they witness sexism. You also talk about the double standard with men and women and sort of like these spaces where um, men will maybe not necessarily invite the woman. The men in the office may not invite the women because they've made an assumption. I think one of your co-authors in the book. I think talked about a trip. Maybe it was to Vegas or
To
something.
Vegas,
To
yeah.
Vegas, yeah. And
But
yeah, and they were like, she's like, I like poker.
right,
I
she
like
can
to
stay
play
up to
poker all
two,
night.
three, like the rest of them, right? But people made the
Yeah,
assumption
and they
that
didn't ask her.
didn't ask her, and see, that's where you get left out of the conversation, the business conversation, the relationship building, right? So if you're the female that's in that situation, you got to be aware of that, right? And try to invite yourself as an option. But if you're a witness, a bystander, and you see that your female colleagues haven't been invited, maybe you can step up and invite them, and or say to the leader, we shouldn't have these
If we're not
these
going to invite
if we're not going to invite
everybody,
everybody, right?
right? Yeah,
And then if all the trips are to Vegas, maybe a little variety is something that the leader needs to be aware of. As a leader, you need to recognize that, and particularly as you lead, as you go higher in the organization, it's you need to manage the content as a leader, but you also need to manage the culture and the way that people feel like they belong and are part of the team.
yep.
Yeah.
That is so important. The culture, and I love that you preface the beginning of the conversation with you don't want to say that all men are just, out there and they're misogynistic and sexist. That's why you wrote the book. It's not that at all. Some of it is just ignorance. And like that would be a moment where a lot of the men may not even realize that they are being offensive by going, hey, we're going to go poker and let you girls go, or all that shall I join the ladies, Margaret Thatcher sort of thing.
Right. Right.
But I have an example too where I worked for an amazing woman creative director years ago, and we were doing some great office renovations, and we had this spare closet room where she said we have a lot of young women who are pregnant. Let's change that. Let's convert that into a breastfeeding station and baby changing, so it'd be really great. But breastfeeding so women could pump their milk and
Yeah.
then do their whole thing. And her boss, who was a man, said, "Well, can't they do that in the bathroom?" And it was just like so crazy. And I remember she said, "So how often did your mom prepare your lunch in the bathroom?" And
Ooh.
I saw the light bulb. Wasn't that
The light
good?
bulb. That
The
was
light
great.
bulb. And
That was great.
I've never forgotten that because it was a light bulb. I was like, wow, she had that comeback ready. She had
Yeah.
to.
But
But it's
that
an
was great,
example.
right? Because it makes it real for that individual. And it, like you said, if we can get the light bulbs going off and
Hmm.
people say, wow, I want to take some action to move things toward this more inclusive environment, it's going to be better for everybody, right?
Yeah.
That's what it's about, better together.
Better together. And in that moment, I remember he actually said, yeah, that sounded really awful, didn't it? And she was like, yeah, kind of stupid. And so they kind of worked it out, and we had this beautiful station for moms.
That's right. That's
Um, and the CEO of Hintwater, Kara Golden, who I think is wonderful, she disrupted the whole beverage industry as well. She shared a story with me how she was looking to get the capital for her launch, and her story had been out there that she was a mom with kids and trying to do her whole thing, and this capitalist who she was meeting with, first thing out of his mouth was something like, how'd you work this out today with the kids or something like that? And she said, oh, the kids. Well, there's these things called babysitters. And she said that to him. Now, this is a moment where she's actually going to this man for money. And so this whole relationship is based on,
right.
and she just had to like check him within 30 seconds. She was like,
Yeah.
well, there's a thing called babysitters. But in that moment, she said he actually caught it. He was like, yikes. And she goes, yeah. So
Yeah.
she didn't get the money from him, but they went on to be good colleagues. And to this day, he uses that story. He
Yeah.
uses it to
That
tell
story.
other
Yeah.
men what he did to her. So it's just, yeah, we can't stress that enough that, women need men to be partners in this struggle. So
Absolutely. Calling men in.
Exactly. Subscribe today for more inspiration on the go.